What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's full-time reaction full-time reaction after Bologna 2, Celtic 2 over in Italy. Matchday 7 Europa League. Scott Stewart with me. This is a live format. Get your comments, your questions in the live chat box below. Stuart, we'll run through the game. A lot to talk about. A lot of talking points throughout it, but I thought a really, really encouraging performance and point from us, and a sort of different performance that you'd associate with Celtic times this season.
Aye, definitely. We've gone from the utter, I think the word kamikaze was used on the channel quite a lot under the previous manager. We play the right way again. I think in terms of the spirit that we showed, the resilience was kind of reminiscent of the Atalanta game in terms of backs to the wall job in Italy, and the spirit just with which we played, even wee things like sort of a red card that I'm sure we'll come on to talk to, but could have been deemed a wee bit sort of unfair but for some people, and that kind of sense of injustice. Martin O'Neill, incandescent, I think was the word used on the touchline. Loads of things that just reminded me of the spirit of that Celtic team all those years ago, and I think the performances that we've shown in Feyenoord and then this one under Martin O'Neill, really encouraging. And I think it's proof that, to be honest, we probably are a team competing at this level rather than Champions League, without a doubt. But I think at this level we can compete, and we showed that tonight. It's not been a great season for Bologna, that's true, but they're a good outfit, make no mistake about it. So a really good point for Celtic.
Aye, I thought we started the game well, Stuart. I thought from minute one you could see we were pressing well. I thought the intensity across the pitch, the hunger, you could see a real hunger and desire in the players to get up against Bologna. McGregor was good against the ball, getting up against players, getting his foot in, winning it back. And then, of course, we get the opening goal. It is a bit of a gift from the Bologna goalkeeper. There's no escaping that. He sort of presents the ball straight to Dyson Maeda, who squares it for Hatate. Eerily reminiscent of the goal that Hatate scored in Feyenoord, where it was just a sort of unforced error for the goalkeeper, but gets us off to the perfect start.
Yeah, absolutely. That Skorupski want to see that again, I'm sure. But I think it's just that every time that you play Dyson Maeda, and this is why teams were looking at him, his pressing data was an outlier even in the Champions League last season. And at this level, I think it's absolutely something that probably Celtic's, this might sound a wee bit inverse, but probably Celtic's best opportunity sometimes in attack is when we're facing the ball, we're pressing, and we're trying to win it back in a high area, rather than their defence being back and us trying to break it down. So I think with Dyson Maeda in the team, you're always going to have that asset. And yeah, it was a good start to the game, but it was part of a kind of pattern where Celtic came into this with no fear tonight. And I think there's just a clarity about Martin O'Neill's instructions. I read after the Feyenoord game that he was quite simple. He said, make sure you defend set pieces well, and made that a point of focus. And we did in that game. Obviously, the set piece defending's been a lot better under him generally. And it's just the simplicity with which he gives players maybe just one or two things to have in their head. And every time you see the players out there, there's none of that sort of second guessing where things should be going or whatever. Even if a mistake's made or the ball's given away, immediately everyone's trying to win it back. They're back into shape. There was that brilliant defensive tackle from Callum McGregor. I think that was when we were 1-0 up.
Saved a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of stuff, it just wouldn't happen under Wilfred Nancy. Maybe not even under Brendan Rodgers this season. So, yeah, I'm seeing an appetite and an attitude from Celtic, which is really encouraging. And it makes getting behind the team a lot easier again.
We're going to come back to the heralded Martin O'Neill effect later on in the video, Stuart. But we did go down to 10 men. I thought, like I say, we started the game really well. We've got a goal to the good. Pressing really well. Bologna around the 20-minute mark did sort of turn it on a wee bit and ramped up the pressure, and we had to weather a storm. There was a flurry of corners for what felt like the whole game after the 20-minute mark. They had loads of corners, particularly second half, which again we'll come back to. But we go down to 10 men. Rio Hatate gets booked twice in the space of 3 minutes, and you'll know in the group chat we were talking about the first yellow card that he received, and when I saw the replay back, I thought that's so stupid. I've no idea why he felt the need to do that. I think there are a couple of times where Hatate received the ball tonight with pressure because Bologna are trying to go man for man against us, and with the pressure, he felt he was maybe fouled. I don't know if that sort of frustrated him. I know that when you feel a referee isn't giving you any decisions, it can get your back up, but he chases Lewis Ferguson back, pulling his jersey, but then he just takes a petulant swipe at his legs. It's a stonewall yellow card. Ferguson's on the touchline. He's not really going anywhere. There's no danger. It's not a good foul. It's a really bad petulant foul that he didn't need to pick up a yellow card for. And then a couple of minutes later, chasing the ball out from a Bologna corner, he's running with a Bologna defender, and live I thought there was absolutely nothing in that, but seeing it back, he does sort of stick his leg out as the defender's running by him. He also has a wee sort of swipe with his arm as well. I mean, it's just silly to put yourself in that situation with the first one, but then retaliate just 3 minutes later. It's not like we've played another 40 minutes and he's forgot he's on a booking. He's literally just received it. I thought he let his teammates down with that.
Yeah, I can see why, and it was disappointing as well because I think Rio Hatate started the game well. He was controlling possession in that pocket at times pretty well, and I think in these European games, it's often where he plays his best football for Celtic. But yeah, I think you're right. There was a definite element. Hatate's an interesting one for me because I think sometimes he shows great discipline and situations that other players might not, and then at times he just does things that are completely brainless. And this was one of them tonight. I thought it was silly. I thought the first one was silly and petulant, and then you're walking a tightrope. And then the second one, you can tell that there's an element that the players have got into his head. He's definitely been spoken to by the Bologna players, and he's not had the sense to go, right, they're trying to wind me up here. Mm-hmm. Given how long he's been at the club now and the amount of these games he's played in, he's got to have a bit more about him than that.
I think, just puts us up against it, away from home, down to 10 men. And then you're thinking, can we get to half-time? Can we get to half-time, still in the lead, regroup? They can change things tactically, make a personnel change, because we're getting close to half-time. And then we go 2-0 ahead. And I think Tierney takes the corner, and he has to retake it because I think there's some jostling in the box and the referee wants to talk to players, which, by the way, is one of my biggest pet peeves in football, the fact that the referee has to stop it at every corner and tell players that they're not allowed to pull and grab and push, because that's what happens every single corner. And
then they do it again, and he does.
And then they do it again, as if the players don't know the rules. But anyway, the first ball he put in, I thought that was actually a good ball in a decent area. Let's hope he can do that again. And we're not used to seeing Kieran Tierney take corners. My God, what a cross. It was one of the balls in swinging into the right area that if a Celtic player gets anything on it, the chances of it going in the net are extremely high, because Engels just gets a flick and trusts he's free at the back post, and all he has to do is sort of guide it in. I think it's in off the crossbar. But a really well worked corner and a great ball in.
Everything about that corner was really good. I think the ball in for KT, where's that been? Right, KT's been at the club. I don't know what it is across his two spells. He's been here a long time. He's played a decade of football or so for Celtic. I can't actually remember. He scored a brilliant goal for the halfway line in his first spell. I remember it might have been his first professional goal. Mm-hmm. Aye, absolute topper. So there's always been talent there, right? But we saw that for Scotland as well to get us to the World Cup. But I think with the amount of poor deliveries we've had from set pieces and the amount of time that we have been maligning the lack of quality that Celtic have in those situations, for KT to deliver, because the thing is, everybody can maybe get it right by luck once, but it was two good balls in a row. But then I think some credit needs to go to Engels. It's a really, really intelligent position he takes up, and the flick on's just right. And then the adjustment of the body for Trusty, because it's a really kind of hard one for him to take, and that could easily get skied, especially by a central defender. But he's very, very clever the way he kind of adjusts his body to make sure that he keeps it under the bar. It's a really, really good set piece goal, and proof that if you work those situations, that it can pay back in kind. And I think, especially domestically, that's going to be one of the big tests for us in what remains of the season is, can we score enough goals from those situations in tight games, and can we avoid conceding them at the ridiculous rate that we have been under the previous coach?
Aye, set pieces are massive nowadays. I think going in at 1-0 with 10 men, you're thinking difficult to see how we can get anything out of this game here. Going in at 2-0, you think that is a real lifeline. That's something we can try and hold on to.
Would you have still taken a draw at that point?
But probably.
Same.
Because I mean, away against a decent side, always going to be difficult, and you know they're always going to come at you second half. I wonder, Stuart, at times in the second half, from the word go, I think we brought Tenekte off, brought Nygren on, and I thought, from minute 1, second half, I'm just not sure we're going to be able to keep them out here, because we were very deep. And Joe Hart made the point in commentary that maybe we were just giving up the wings and letting them put crosses in and taking our chances. And don't get me wrong, I think we defended brilliantly all night. I think Trusty was excellent defensively. I think Tierney was excellent. I think Scales was excellent. I think Donovan, when he was on, was good. Again, aggressive, getting close to people, not letting balls come into the box, not letting people get shots off. I thought it was very interesting. I think Tenekte forced, in the first half when he was on, Tenekte forced a Bologna player into sort of blazing it over the bar, and Callum McGregor made a point of applauding them, and you could see him shouting, "Well done, Seba!" And I thought that symptomised the whole team were getting close to people, and they weren't letting crosses and shots come in. Second half, though, Stuart, I did feel we were just a wee bit deep, and we maybe invited it a wee bit too much pressure. Now, having said that, I know that when you're down to 10 men, it's difficult. What are the setups you can go with? If we were basically like a 5-4 or a 6-3 at times, it's almost a flat back six at times in the second half, and Bologna were pinning his back. But the only other option is to try and keep a sort of presence at the top of the pitch and get forward. But when Bologna have got so much of the ball and they're getting out wide, can you afford to sort of leave somebody up the pitch as a threat? That's the balance that I suppose Martin O'Neill and the coaching staff had to strike. Ultimately, I thought Bologna, they deserve to get back into the game because of the sheer volume of crosses and corners and pressure they had in the game. I thought Jonathan Rowe was good for them. Really dangerous, direct, sharp footwork. I just thought after their first goal, I was like, can we do anything to just get up the pitch here and retain a wee bit of possession?
I think we could have done with a player. Hopefully Chivanchara can be that guy where he gives you an out ball that's a bit more mobile, because despite Dyson Maeda's mobility, I don't think he's a player that runs into spaces and then holds up the ball to drag the team up the pitch. That's not really his game. Whereas I think Chivanchara hopefully has a bit of that. I've not seen enough of him to know his game with any sort of kind of intimate detail yet, but I do think that if we have a player that can play that role a bit, because you don't just need to be like a big target man to bring the ball in. You don't need to be that ilk. You can be a different type of target man. Celtic definitely need that out ball, and in a game like this, that would have been vital. I think it's a natural inclination that players. I've watched enough football now that I know for a fact, especially with a Scottish team, right? Whether it's the national team or Celtic. There's always going to be that thing where if you're down to 10 men, you sit back. Martin O'Neill, I kind of referenced how this game reminded me of games from his first stint, and I do feel that this was another element of that. I think it's the kind of thing that team would have done, and let's be honest, probably it's less frustrating than then, because back then we had some world class players in the team. Whereas I just don't think that we have the quality to really have that out ball in that situation. And I don't think we're sophisticated enough defensively, tactically, to play any higher than we were. I can see a few people in the comments complaining about how deep we sat, as if Martin O'Neill will have said that as an instruction. I think he'll probably have said, yeah, we're going to need to soak up some pressure here, but I don't think he'll have been saying, like, pin yourselves in the 6-yard line. But the natural inclination of players is to do that. You mentioned Jonathan Rowe. The goal is not a great one, especially the second for me. Definitely not a great one for Kasper Schmeichel to concede. There's no many players can come inside on their weaker foot. He tends to play on the left, drifting into the right, Jonathan Rowe, but he was on the right, coming into the left on that one, and he catches it well. Schmeichel's a bit unsighted, but again,
he gives it up though, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's another question mark against a goalkeeper that I feel has. I mean, people are saying things about conditioning and things like that. Something like psychological to me, almost just like a bit of negativity in the mindset. And somebody at Kasper Schmeichel's pedigree and experience, that shouldn't be true of.
Aye, I think by no means is that a howler, right? I just think
he's had worse.
He's unsighted. There's no doubt he's unsighted. A lot of bodies in front of him, but it does go in straight in the centre of his goals. And I think as it passes the defenders, he's already got his hands up in the air like that and planted his feet as if there's nothing he can do about it. I think it maybe is a lack of sharp movement and agility. Don't get me wrong, he made a couple of saves tonight, a couple of good saves, a couple of really good reaction saves. Ones you'd maybe expect him to make that were within his reach. If they weren't straight at him, they were within his reach. Good save from a header. He had that good one that he sort of swatted away with his forearm later in the game as well. So he did make a couple of strong saves tonight. But I just think that equaliser, it was reminiscent of a goal we conceded against Midtjylland, where again he's unsighted. That was a better finish sort of into the corner, but before, I mean, just as it's left the attacker's foot, it's like he's given up on it. So it wasn't a great look. Again, not a massive error, but I think you'd like to see him maybe make a better effort towards the ball, certainly when he goes in the centre of his goals. Stuart, I think a couple of people want us to maybe talk a wee bit about Kvanchara. Now, you talked about him being maybe a sort of focal point, and having a player like that might have helped us in tonight's situation. Interesting point there about maybe being similar to Šeško. I think that is the case. Martin O'Neill was keen to point out that he's not your traditional target man. He's quick and he is agile. A couple of clips I've watched from, I know what Martin O'Neill means there. He's not John Hartson, as Martin O'Neill said in the press conference. Interesting to see what he can bring to the team. I think is much needed, obviously, getting a striker in, we know that. Some doubt about where he's at in his career just now with the move to Gladbach not working out for him and the loan move failing as well. But we are so desperate for help in the striking department that you've got to hope he can certainly add something. And with the exertions tonight in Maeda, who, I mean, that's the sort of flagship Dyson Maeda performance, that just charging at people for 95 minutes. I was certain for about 40 minutes he was going to get sent off though, because he was on a booking as well and he just kept charging at people. But putting that amount of effort and running in and then having to go to Tynecastle and do it all again, you've got to wonder if Kvanchara goes straight in on Sunday, haven't you?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that he does, partly through just the necessity of the situation and the hope that he can do something on his debut. I believe that despite not the best goal-scoring record overall, he is somebody that tends to make an impact in his first game for clubs. I've been speaking to a few of my pals that are Bundesliga journalists about the guy, and there's a kind of split of opinion in terms of some of them think that, look, he's a bit of a bad egg, and I think a lot of Celtic fans have probably read about the problems in the dressing room, maybe some stuff off the field, different elements that are quite concerning. But there's a kind of positive side to look at as well. This is a guy that Gladbach invested heavily in. It's a guy that did have a good impact to start with the club, and he got a bit unfortunate in that the other striker, Kleindienst, started playing a top level, a level that was, I'm not sure if he got international recognition, but definitely in the discussion for it, which says a lot. So on that basis, I think, looking at where Celtic are in the market, how much of a struggle we've been finding it, I don't think that this is necessarily a bad signing, especially on a loan to buy. That's the kind of deals that, to be honest, I wanted to see us making, because I don't trust the recruitment team enough for them to get it right and just say, oh, I go and spend some money. But at the same time, getting the idea that we can get someone in, get a look at them and see what they're up to is something that I would back. And the key part for me is, if he was brought in to do well at a Bundesliga team, and Gladbach aren't fighting relegation in the Bundesliga, and he's also someone that, through a combination of different factors that are not necessarily football-wise, then I think he's coming into the right manager to deal with that kind of stuff, to refocus him, especially someone that definitely has some quality, and is someone that can come to the Scottish League and maybe stand out, maybe put down some roots somewhere where he's had a bit of a nomadic career. There's a few elements that play into this that I just think this could actually turn out quite well for Celtic. And worst comes to the worst, then he leaves after 6 months and we've not really lost too much.
Aye, absolutely. Let's hope he does have a positive impact. 7 million option to buy as well. Now, I think he's going to have to go some to justify that in the summer. And again, we're going to have a new permanent manager. Who knows where he'll stand on things like that and who that'll even be. That's a conversation for another day. Stuart, I think across the pitch tonight, you can't have too many complaints at all. I think everybody, like I say, individually and collectively defended very well. We did have to weather a storm second half. You can maybe, if you want to be pernickety, pick out sort of fractional moments in both goals. But I think towards the end of the game, when you think in 85, 90 minutes that there's going to be a real onslaught, we did well. We actually managed to get the ball up the Bologna end and caused an issue. I thought maybe, I think the referee gives a foul actually when Scales sort of loops the header on and the keeper tips over for a corner, but he gives a foul on Trusty in the centre 18-yard box. I think there was a ball that Nygren could have maybe timed a bit better for Maeda charging through the middle. That actually set off a Bologna counter-attack in the 94th minute. So I was petrified then, but I think across the pitch, a lot of good performances. And like I said at the start of the video, the big thing for me tonight was the hunger and the aggression the team showed against the ball, the way they pressed, and their desire to not to lose the game. And I think you could see that togetherness when there was big moments, big tackles, big blocks, saves, whatever it would be. There was a lot of togetherness. They looked together, and they certainly were not together and united, and they didn't have a lot of desire when Wilfred Nancy was here. Now, this Martin O'Neill effect is completely intangible. It's very difficult to put your finger on why these games, and even the Falkirk game as well, you think we'd have lost that game under Wilfred Nancy. Almost guaranteed. Mm-hmm. As guaranteed as an outcome could be in a football match, we'd have lost that if Wilfred Nancy was the manager. Martin O'Neill's there and we find a way to win it. Tonight, with 10 men for 60 odd minutes, away in Europe, where Celtic are notoriously horrendous, we come away with a valuable point against a really decent European side. It's very difficult to quantify what Martin O'Neill does, but it's something.
Right, let me try. There's two key factors for me involved in it. Our chat's popping off, so I better shut that window on my computer, otherwise it's going to keep making noises. Yeah, so I think there's two key things that Martin O'Neill does, right? Everybody goes on about his motivational qualities, but to break that down, right, the guy is a psychological expert. He knows how to communicate with people. He has a keen understanding of the different personalities, as you would from 5-6 decades, whatever it is in football. He's got a very good understanding of dressing room dynamics, worked under Brian Clough, obviously, so understands how a genial manager can make a difference to a team and has understood that intrinsically from very early on in his career. So Martin O'Neill is somebody that understands what it takes to motivate a group of people and to make them perform above their level, right? That's what we need in the European games, particularly away from home, is we need players playing at their best level and then some. However, when it comes to the domestic stuff, what he's got is he's got a group of players. He knows how to put the team deployed in a formation that gives them the best chance of winning, which it sounds simple. But do you know what, actually? See, Italiano, conversely, right, in charge of Bologna, he's setting up a very idealistic Pep Guardiola style of playing football, right? That maybe his team aren't quite up to executing consistently well enough to get enough points to be back in the European places again this season. So you look at that and you look at the first goal that they conceded tonight, and I kind of feel that football's kind of splitting into these sort of managers that are wily and know that winning games is the be-all and end-all, right? And then these hipster new age coaches that just, I've got my tactics that I play and that's that. And I'm very much bought into the old school way of thinking in that regard. I want a manager that sets a team up to win. Martin O'Neill does that, and he knows how to do that really well. And where he can make them play above their level to help them succeed or at least play better in Europe and the European away games. In the domestic games, it's more about just making sure that these players get over the line and win the game. And let's face it, Celtic have still, despite the ridiculousness of recruitment, still have the best squad in the country. So we should win the vast majority of games. And that's why we do that under Martin O'Neill.
Aye, it is incredible. I think from an outsider looking in, if you just looked at Celtic results with no context and you thought, all that's really changed there is a manager. Now I know that the system and the way of playing is markedly different, but I think it's incredible, the impact. And like I say, it is intangible in some ways. You've done a very good job of trying to explain it and summarise it, but there's no doubt that there's something that Martin O'Neill transmits that the players really believe and really buy into, and I think that comes back to that togetherness and desire that they showed tonight, and that can hopefully be a catalyst, Stuart. And now I know there's a psychological and definitely a physical element of effort tonight that might sort of feel draining for the players going into another big domestic game on Sunday at Tynecastle. But if we can take that same hunger and desire to defend our goal that we had tonight, yes, I know we end up conceding twice, but we're away from home, a man down. If we can take that hunger and desire and find the quality, that's got to hopefully stand us in good stead to get a massive result. And in my opinion, Sunday's must win.
Yeah, I think it does stand us in good stead. I'm just want to pick up on one of the comments actually there, because I think it raises an interesting point. O'Neill has the uncanny ability to criticise players, and instead of taking the huff, they want to play better for him. That proves the point. It proves the point that this is a guy that has the ability to galvanise. I also think what Martin O'Neill's done, right, has contextualised just how poor it had got under Brendan Rodgers as well, because everyone's thinking of the immediate past in Wilfred Nancy. But under Brendan Rodgers, we were torture to watch. Like at the start of this season, it was not good. Yeah, it wasn't good to watch at all. Under Martin O'Neill, don't get me wrong, we've not been setting the heather alight in terms of dazzling performances, but we're winning games, and that is what it's all about. And the other factor that I maybe didn't mention in my previous spiel was about just how Martin O'Neill gets this football club. And he doesn't just understand what Celtic is, he understands how to transmit the importance of that. And he understands how to make someone like Sebastian Tunekti, who is, let's be honest, like a sort of flamboyant winger and probably not the hardest worker defensively or off the ball, understands how to get him pressing and closing every cross down. That's the kind of effect that he can have. And if we're going to win the league, then this is one of the most remarkable managerial triumphs that Scottish football, if not the most, like in terms of a domestic title, that Scottish football will ever have seen. Because you're talking about a man resurrecting a team twice. And if he manages to do that, especially with both hands pretty much tied behind his back in terms of squad building, then you cannot understate just how massive an achievement that would be for him as an individual. And it would probably eclipse everything that he did in his first spell, just by the nature of how difficult it's been made for him.
Aye, listen, let's hope the resurrection continues, and let's hope we're fit and there's no injury concerns, and we can go into Tynecastle on Sunday and hopefully get what would be a massive result. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. I'll be back with you at the weekend with the build-up to that huge game at Tynecastle. Until then, like the video, comment your own thoughts below. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.